Hello, hello, hello. We are live. And welcome to Glitch Chance Live, episode 16. I'm Jenn Schiffer, Director of Community here at Fastly, and I'm here with my friend Zach Leatherman, who doesn't work on Glitch, but he works on a lot of stuff that drives a lot of the stuff that we do on Glitch. Zach, hello. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So for those of you who are watching right now, this is live, so say hi in the chat and let me know if the audio is working. If you're a regular on here, you know that I've struggled with my microphone arm, and you don't see that here because my microphone's here. Yesterday, as I was preparing the stream, Zach, I went to this microphone arm and I was trying to fuss with it, and I said out loud to it, I said, "Why can't you and I just get along?" And within like that moment, it just crumbled in my arms. And it's like a pile of parts like on the windowsill over there. And I was like, okay, like find peace, little friend, rip.
So broke it physically and emotionally.
It was breaking me physically and emotionally as well. And I'm glad that it decided, you know what, let me just end this here for both of us. So yeah. Let's see. Can everyone hear Zach coming through? Just want to make sure.
Testing. Hello.
Yeah, there you go.
I am here.
Cool. Great. Another like personal update is last week I had my 2 16-ounce glasses of water. Today I'm back to my 32-ounce glass, so I hope you all are staying hydrated. Zach, I know you got a cup near you. If you can share off your gamer fuel. You see?
It's branded too.
There you go. Is that a Cloud Cannon cup? Hell yeah. Yep, I can see it. You gotta do the influencer, like hold a hand behind the phone.
Wait, what is that? I don't know that technique.
You use your hands to help the camera focus on the smaller item in front of your hand.
I see.
But it's funny when like the cup is bigger than your hand. Yeah. I watch a lot of YouTube and I have been for a lot of years. But next week we're not gonna have a stream because the team is off, and so I won't have mods, and it would be irresponsible to do a live stream without mods. Not for you, the chat, more I'm the one that needs the moderation. But when I get back, I do have I will be upgrading to a 33.4 fluid ounce glass that came from like a watermelon juice I had. I don't know, I picked it up earlier. I was gonna recycle it and I was like, oh, I like the way that this feels, and it feels like less like I'm gonna drop it, which would be a disaster if I dropped this much water on a stream or anywhere. And so yeah, that's some exciting glitch news for the community. 33.4 ounces, we're upgrading. So yeah, like and subscribe.
I'm streaming live from Iowa, and we have some great truck stop quality big gulp merchandise I can ship to you if you're really interested in a huge drink vessel.
There will be a point where I upgrade to like a backpack, you know, like the hiking. Nature, I always said nature to me is going to like a window that faces Union Square in the Fastly New York City office. But I should also have like a camel pack to stay hydrated. So we're working our way there. So yeah, I wanted to we have lots of links to go over. So normally for the stream, I share all the cool apps that the Glitch community's been making throughout the previous week. But I have a lot of links that I've asked you to share of what your favorite sites are that I've been using Eleventy. But let me open up our special browser window scene here on glitch.com. I do want to share one specific glitch app, which is our app of the week, Color Vector Fields by Death. So our glitch jam prompt this month is screensavers. And so we've had the community making screensavers in the browser. So here's a cool color vectors
amazing.
One. Yeah, this one is using P5JS and the HSL. I was calling it HS Love, but it's HSL UV like color library, so it's like an alternative to like HSL. I started to learn more about it because in the stream last week where I shared this prompt submission, I was saying HS love, and then halfway through the stream caught myself being like, why am I saying it that way? HSLUV is an actual thing. And they had done this for a coding train challenge. We're big fans of Daniel Schiffman and coding train. And so they submitted this to our code jam. And it just like looks cool. It looks like hair. I love like super thin lines on this. I wonder what this would look like on a very old monitor. Things could just be so fine grained right now.
Yeah, with like the scanning.
Yeah,
You can see it on. Yeah.
So if you want to submit your own screensavers, go to glitch.com/jams. You can learn more about the prompt. You can see some inspiration of screensavers that already exist on Glitch. And I've been live coding my own submission. I made an app called Hello Screensaver that you can remix. Basically, it just detects if for 5 seconds there's been any like click or movement over the web page. And if so, it doesn't turn a screensaver on. But then if it doesn't detect any movement, it turns a screensaver on. Let me see if I can get the help. We are having some issues on Glitch today. There is an incident going on that the team is actively working on as I get to do the fun stuff on here. So shouts out to the team. But Hello Screensaver is the app.
DevOps hugs.
Ops hugs. So if you don't move over the window or click on it, it will like just start to show a screensaver. Let me visit the window. And I think I had set it to like 5 seconds. I was telling Zach before when we were doing the tech check about my inability to convert milliseconds to seconds.
Happens to everybody.
And yeah, when I hovered over the screensaver went away. So you can make it do something way more interesting than moving a blue box around the screen. Which is what this is doing. And then when I come back to the stream, if I find a time next week, if not the week after, I will update this with what I want it to do on my own site. I'm gonna move this to probably Live Laugh blog and my personal site. Because I don't know, having a screensaver on a website is such a funny idea, I think, personally.
Yeah, I feel like I have seen a website screensaver before. I think maybe Stefan Judas. I don't know if you know that developer, but yeah, like years ago, I think that they may still have a screensaver on their website. I think it's a cool idea. Or it kind of reminds me of that DVD one that like goes in the corners.
Yeah. I think there might have been a submission I shared that was the DVD style. And there's a couple of other like clones on Glitch. And that's what I'm thinking of. Someone actually submitted something like that, but it was the glitch fish. I think it was Derek who did. I shared in the stream last week. And the glitch fish move, and as they hit the window, like some sparkles like come out of it, and it kind of looks like it's like farting sparkles, which is pretty neat.
Very professional.
Yeah. So everyone, if you want to participate, go to glitch.com/jams. We're gonna be announcing our new prompt the week after next. And just like a sneak peek, because you're here, it has to do with bugs. We love bugs here. I also want to give a shout out. Yeah, I mean, bugs are, I love bugs, computer bugs, bugs that aren't in my apartment. Love them all. So stay tuned for that prompt. And you can share the apps that you're making for the prompt by adding CodeJam and screensavers to your project description, and I'll find them and share them on the stream. And we always share a little playlist of past streams and past CodeJams that we've had. So we had Welcome to My Blog last month. We made a cool community blog roll that we'll be adding to the new Glitch blog, which I'll get into. And we have self-portraits, gift giving, dream default style sheets. If you have any ideas for future prompts, let me know. I'd love to see it. And thanks, Jen, for sharing links in the chat. She grabbed the fish bouncing screen one that was mentioned. Cool. So yeah, speaking of the blog, this is I broke out the silver blog balloons behind me. Fortunately, the L hasn't fallen. Reason why I asked Zach to join us is because we launched the new glitch blog that is now powered by 11T. Um, Look how freaking fast it is. It's like so
Incredible.
speedy. Yeah. You know, one of the main glitch starters, if you go to our Discover page, has we've always had for a long time an 11T blog starter, and then the minimum one. So we've always had a lot of folks creating with 11T. It's just a static site generator that we the developer experience is great, like the user experience with like the web performance is great, and we'll get into about like your motivations for creating it. But it only made sense, especially since Anil's blog uses 11T, my personal blog uses 11T. The glitch blog has like a long storied history. It had started off as a like tech zine called Glimmer, and it had a lot of
Mm,
people who didn't necessarily like know markdown and code contributing to it. So we had hired a firm to build it, and it was a Next.js app using Prismic as a CMS. And so there were performance issues and also just like struggling with the tooling. And then when it came to just become the glitch blog, we knew that we had the ability to update Markdown and have like a really nice like GitHub PR like workflow for having staging sites and stuff. And we also got to the point where like costs for Prismic were going to
mm.
dramatically increase. And it was like, no, like this isn't like worth all of that. And so
Yeah, they went through some
Keith,
pricing
who
changes recently, or
well, it was more like our blog grew to the point where it was
mm,
hitting like enterprise level.
mm,
And you know, I think like the, Glitch has always been like a storytelling company, so the blog is important to us, but it's always hard to uh, I think make the case for enterprise costs for a blog when your
mm,
company's revenue is not from blogging. You know what I mean?
mm. Yeah.
Especially when there are options. We moved very quickly. Like Keith exported everything. That was like a whole other deal because Prismic uses blocks and like they have an exporting API, but not like a feature. The feature you had
Mm,
to like have a premium account to do is very strange. The lock in there personally.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Prismic got the job done. I'm not a fan of the lock in aspect, but I don't want to discount that they weren't there for us for the years that we did use it. But um, Keith did a lot of work on exporting everything and converting it into Markdown, and then Allie did all the work of building out like the pagination, the categories. Like we use WebC, which we'll talk about. Um, and the only work I did was like I went in and categorized all the posts from like in alphabetical order to like the letter D because we have a lot of Glitch is 7 years old. We have a lot of blog posts on here.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's been like nice being able to edit locally on my machine and not
Mm,
like an online CMS and be able to collaborate with Jen Turner who does most of the blogging. She's able to work with it as well and has published a couple of things since it that. But like this is like we're talking like weeks um of us working on this but only like intermittently. So the migration wasn't a whole lot of work, which is nice.
yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah,
Quick
yeah.
turnaround.
So that's why we're here. We built it with 11T, and it's like let's get Zach in. So this is your website. Is your website powered by 11T?
My personal website, all
Yeah.
of the websites. I feel like all the websites I work on are powered by Eleventy now. um, yeah, I mean, my personal website, zekelite.com, is an Eleventy site. It was maybe one of the first Eleventy sites. But it was Jekyll before that, and then I think WordPress before that.
hmm
But that's a very old site too. My content, I think, goes back to like 2006 or something on my personal site. So
When did you launch 11T?
I think I started working on it in 2017. And maybe our first release was like the end of the year in 2017. Yeah, and I remember that because my daughter was very small. And I would like take an hour here and there to like work on it when she was sleeping, or yeah, when I
Yeah.
had some free time. So that was it was purely a side project at that point.
So you have a young child and you're like, I'm going to start a static site generator. What?
I'm a stress coder.
But like what was like the original like motivation for you to start this project?
I mean, that my personal site was, I think, the one of the big motivators originally, because I wanted something similar to Jekyll, but I wanted to manage all of the sort of moving pieces of that in JavaScript and not in Ruby. And I have like a computer engineering background, so I can do Ruby. I just prefer JavaScript, and I like to invest in JavaScript as much as possible. Don't pay attention to this little Node.js thing here. Or my t-shirt, actually. I don't know if you've seen this t-shirt before, but
I always
yeah.
appreciate the not you on that shirt because my initials are JS. So, and I, have a God complex. So I just assume the JS means me. And it's hard not to
Yes, of course.
take it personally when I see no JS. But it's like, oh no, you're talking about JavaScript. But also then, yeah, some
Yeah, I feel like
JS.
there's a lot of folks that I remember over the years in the JavaScript sphere that have had the initials JS. But yeah, a lot of legends. So yeah, I think my personal site was maybe one of the big original drivers behind it. And that's kind of how it started. And it just, I guess, blew up from there.
So the motivation was I didn't want to write Ruby.
Yeah, kind of.
No, I get it. In my previous job, like Boku's website used to be built with a Ruby based site generator. And my first task at the job was to add my about page to the site. And I was just kind of like, okay, that's no big deal. And then I ran into like getting the right Ruby version on my machine. And this is when like everyone's dev environments were built locally and there wasn't really containers. And so
Yeah.
what I thought would take me like 15 minutes ended up taking me the entire day. And yeah, fortunately, I mean, maybe it's just from my own experience in writing JavaScript and Node for so long, but I've always just enjoyed the developer experience of a JavaScript like based like dependencies. I know. I always
Yeah, I'm
even
kind
like
of all in on Node.js. I like Node.js. I think Node.js is great. I think the project is maintained very well. And I think it's a very sustainable project too. So I'm very happy that I have built things on top of Node.js.
where did the name Eleventy come from? That's a question that came from Calby786 in our forum, but it was also a question I was wondering too.
Yeah, it came from a story my grandma used to tell me about how I used to count when I was a kid, because there's like an English inconsistency in like 11 through 12 or 10 through 12 where it doesn't say teen, but I felt like it should be teens. So yeah, I used to say 11 teen, 11, 12 teen, 13, 14. And yeah, it was kind of an homage to my grandma.
I love that so much. And it's also like correct. Like that it should be 11T.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why.
What was
English is
the
like that sometimes.
Yeah, no, I love that. I had every for some reason I've been having to spell the word 12th a lot and it's just vexing me like how we've spelled and stated numbers. And then, I get distracted and I'm like, why was I saying 12th in the first place? Uh
Yeah, it feels like it should have a V at the in there at the end somewhere.
Seriously. Well, I mean, and then it's a good idea for if I have a project in the future that I want to name. I'll pick
Yes.
what the word 12th should actually uh be
I mean,
like. I mean, I
it's
have the same
fairly
beef
regular. Oh, go ahead.
I was say I have the same beef with the word February. Like that
Oh,
R in there. So, you know.
yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, I feel like it's fairly regular that I'll hear folks say that the next version of 11D should be 12D. But I don't think I'm gonna go down that road.
No, no.
Fought this battle once.
Save that for someone else to make a static site generator. Um,
Yeah.
that actually reminds me of another set of questions that I've gotten from the community. It's kind of based around like the motivation of working on a static site generator and what can seem like a saturated open source like market, because static site generators have been around a lot, and then we kind of lost the plot with single page apps, and 11T helped kind of like pull us back into really kind of
That's
like,
nice of you to say.
yeah, no, for absolutely, like is a huge part of that. So Jesse on my team, Jesse Von Doom, was like, why create a new static site generator? Like, how do you push through and build something in the face of established alternatives?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question because the answer now has a certain context, but the answer in 2017, I feel like also had maybe a more watered down context because there were maybe fewer players in the space. But if you go to my website and go to like the 11D section of my website, it says like at the top, why are there so many static site generators? If you there's like a yep 11D section on the top right, and that was like the header that's been there for years and years and years. So I felt like there were a lot when I started the project. And so, yeah, I kind of felt the front end web development community going towards a more client side JavaScript heavy, more bundler based tech stack. And yeah, I wanted to not do that. I think the project generally has sort of a focus on reducing as many third party dependencies as possible. And that's to reduce my maintenance burden for the project generally. I think that WebC really was born from, we'll probably talk about this a little later, but WebC was born from sort of getting burned by using a front end component framework and trying to integrate that into the 11D stack, and then having them sort of pivot a new major version and sort of pulled all of that code that I had built and all the dependencies that I used to build that stack from under me. And I felt, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel good to sort of lose all that work immediately because that was a fair chunk of effort to integrate a component framework in 11D. So yeah, we sort of dipped our toes in and made our own.
Yeah, I think that like kind of speaks to the level of maturity that JavaScript as a language for building web infrastructure like has gotten us
Mm,
to, where we're at the point that open source projects are pivoting so quickly. They're becoming companies, and
mm,
therefore there's like it's not just self motivated the changes that you have to make, but like business motivated. We're seeing more frameworks like fundraising or being acquired by companies. Um, I know you work at CloudCamp now. Are how much of your time do you work on 11T there, and do you still like have like is 11T still like an independent open source project that just happens to have like this kind of stewardship?
Yeah, it is still independent. Cloud Kitchen has a 4-day work week, so they give me a portion of that 4-day work week to work on 11D. I think it's like 20% time or 10 or 15 or I don't know. It's 4 hours a week. You do the math. And then I have the Friday of my normal 5-day work week to work on it if I feel motivated to do so. And I think that sort of 4-day work week with the fifth day optional has been incredible for my motivation and incredible for my relationship with open source generally, because it then sort of pivoted me towards this is something that I am choosing to do, and if and it yeah made a more healthy relationship with my open source project because when you're working on open source full time, which is what I had as my previous arrangement, it really can. There's a lot of mental health things that go into that I think are not communicated or not well known, and it becomes a really very competitive space. And it's almost like I need to compete with all of these other products, and if I don't, I will lose my funding and I will lose my livelihood. So that is not a healthy situation to be in.
Yeah. Um that actually leads to a couple of other questions we gotten from the community. But before that, can somebody in the chat tell me how many milliseconds are in 4 hours? Thank you. But that's a question. Um, so when you're working full time within a company on an open source project, like I get even just like glitch getting acquired, like initially was thinking of like how competitive will glitch be with like the rest of Fastly products. So there's some like parallels there. But you
Mm.
even like every open source project now, we know that there is a non-zero chance of it becoming a like corporate competitor. And
Mm.
so one of the questions from who in the forum, it's with the zero, and who has been a regular, and who will tell me if I'm mispronouncing their username. They said, how do you get over the feeling of people will use an alternative? That was kind of the theme of a lot of the questions from the community, is like you're working on something that is like really meaningful to you, but you see other people um, comparing it to like competitors. And
Mm.
we'll talk about like kind of the discourse of web performance, of course, but like how do you balance that and stay true to like your mission, especially now that like you are working on it as a part of your like, day job?
Yeah, I do think it takes a certain mindset and a certain attitude. You have to, um, just as a baseline, I think I'm a fan of making websites generally. And I think I approached the Eleventy project originally as something that it was just for me, which is maybe a selfish thing to say, but I like building websites. I still build websites all the time. I love creating websites generally. And so I still like Eleventy to fulfill that need personally. I think if I ever get tired of building websites, then Eleventy might be in a bad spot, but I've been doing this for, I don't know, 20 some years now. So I don't think the passion will die out. I'm not
You're all in.
worried about that at this point. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, it doesn't really bother me if people use Eleventy or not. And I think that's maybe strange to say, but it is an open source project. It is a project that isn't required to be popular. I have no uh, personal vested, like, I don't make any extra money if Eleventy gets popular. So there's a certain amount of attitude that I have that I almost sometimes feel the tension that I don't want it to be more popular
Yeah, no, I
because
get it.
there's just more open source burden that comes along with that. So um, yeah, I think a lot of people would maybe disagree with my business acumen running this project, but yeah,
Well, I
I'm just
think
sort of happy with where it's at.
yeah, and 8 million npm downloads. Like congratulations. And that was
Hey,
as of a
thanks.
month ago. I'm sure there's been a lot more now. I mean, it's popular, but no, I totally get the like it's like exciting but terrifying when people are using your stuff, and then you start to worry like, can I manage like this community that's coming through, and like what help do I have? And um another question that we got from who was like, how do you keep focused on building the most essential features for your users and saying no to like the non-essential? Because the more people that are using it, I'm sure you got like more use cases brought up, or needs and requests. And it's we know at glitch it's hard to say like no, but it's important to say no when you know that you can't do it or it doesn't align with what the vision is. How do you handle that with 11t?
Yeah, I don't handle it very well. I'm a people pleaser. Yeah, I feel very reluctant to say no. One of the approaches that we take on our issue tracker is new feature requests that come in. We put them into a feature queue or a feature request queue, and then we look at the upvotes that go with those. But we try to, and there's some of this needs maintenance on the issue tracker that we have now, but we tried to close those issues immediately, or at least up front, to try and say, this is a feature request. There's no guarantees that this will ever be added. We may add it if it gets a ton of upvotes in our enhancement queue, and those sort of issues sort of rise to the top. But I do take bugs and sort of problems with the software very seriously, because I don't want those to be a thing that creeps up. But yeah, enhancement requests are sort of a no by default.
I think that's a good way, a good healthy way to start that out. Let's before we talk about like WebC and like web performance discourse and how you got into that, maybe we can rapid fire through some of these sites that you showed, because I asked you to like send me like what are your favorite Leventy sites, or ones that we can share. There maybe are some that aren't like appropriate for stream. Like there was one that said a cuss word, which I told you, I'm like, I probably said it before, but so I'm like, I hate every glitch app I see. I'm like, this is my favorite glitch app, but it's hard to narrow it down. But let's go through some of them. So I'm going to close out your site, the Eleventy site. Um, Here's a Sam Smith. Is this built with Eleventy?
Yeah, all of these sites I think are built with 11D that we're gonna go through today. And this one is like one of the OG ones. Sam has like been with the 11D community for a very long time, and their work has always been extremely top notch. Like I remember very early on saying all of Sam's sites are basically get 4 hundos on Lighthouse, and it's just completely consistent web performance, but the design is just incredible too.
It's
So
stunning. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just when I was clicking through all these sites I had mentioned before, I'm like, these all like look really great, and so for being like performant, accessible, and still like really nice looking, it's again, this is why like 11D enables a community that's like a good model for like caring about web performance and it not being like a huge lift to do that. Because with the glitch blog, and Keith is in the chat and acknowledged that WebC really made it a lot easier to think about how to make like the transition again, and like the developer experience of like moving to 11T or migrating to using WebC. It's just as having that along with the web performance improvement. It feels like cheating, and that's like kind of the joy that I get when I'm making websites. Is like, is a tool making me feel like I'm cheating in like a good way?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like to stick as close to web standards as possible, and I think that there's a lot of discussion to be had about where to draw the line between adding an abstraction and the relationship of adding a dependency and an abstraction together, and how that ties into your maintenance. But I like writing CSS. I don't like transpiling it or adding extra layers on top of it. And I think CSS has gotten so good lately. And I think we're going through another phase of that right now, right? Where ESM is starting to become a first party thing, even on the back end. And yeah, JavaScript is starting to get bundler free, or at least trending towards that.
Yeah. Tell me about this page, Corey Dransfeld's site.
Yeah, Corey has done a ton of work on their Now page. I feel like it's just a perfect example of like pulling in all of these different data sources and creating a static site out of it. I think one of the maybe the most powerful features of Eleventy is that it has that build step. So you can pull in a bunch of and just you can make requests to 100 different sites on the internet. And as long as you're spitting out just a single HTML page on the back end, then it's still going to be fast for your users. And so I really like this example of just sort of collating a bunch of different community data together.
Yeah, and it loads so fast with the information, not like gray boxes that are there waiting for the information to come through, which drives me bananas.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very nice. We got Nicholas Hoisey's site here.
Yeah, Nicholas is another sort of OG 11D person, and they are really into indie web stuff. So like all of their content, it's just, I don't even know how many pages this site is, but they are just a very prolific publisher of a lot of micro notes. And so, yeah, if you go out to their site, there's just, you can tell that it's like a collation of community content.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And they write, and it sounds like a good place to go if you want to learn more about web performance and 11T. It sounds like they document a lot of how they're doing this stuff, which is cool. So good resource. Exactly. I know Miriam.
Yeah, Miriam's great. They have done so much incredible work on CSS this year, and even in the last couple of years, and they've sort of changed the game for CSS generally, I think. So yeah, I gotta give a shout out to this built with the Lebanese site, of course. It's beautiful
Cool.
as well.
Yeah, shouts out Miriam. Vadim Makiv. This is you know, my favorite I used to bristle when everybody was like going nuts whenever somebody launched like a dark mode like site because I was kind of like
Mm,
the dark mode the that didn't drive me, but the way that people have made dynamic the toggling of it.
mm,
Like even like the other site before, I see a moon and I click it. Like not because I want to see
yeah.
what the dark mode is, but because of the way that CSS is being used to enable that. Like Josh Como's site, of course, is like an iconic example of like the haptic click. Like it like
Mm,
scratches my brain in like a right way. And so
yeah,
it's
that's great.
cool to see
Yeah,
that
I think
here.
that light mode, dark mode toggles have been like this hyper focus uh thing that just so many people have loved to solve and publish and write about. And yeah, it's been kind of cool. Have y'all done a glitch week on dark mode toggles yet?
No, so the glitch editor, we have a setting to set the theme, and there's a dark mode. But this is new to the glitch blog. Allie had just like one day was like, oh yeah, now we have dark mode. So like the footer has light and dark mode, and it was just like, oh, that's like nice. Maybe I'll just do a stream where we just celebrate having dark mode on the blog. I love those little
Yeah, that's
wins
great.
there. But yeah,
Yeah, I think I sort of remember Vadim's website specifically as being one of the very early page transitions examples. And that's sort of a new CSS specification to do sort of cross-page animations and transitions. And it's another thing that is breaking down the walls of the single-page application fortress that folks have built over the years. So yeah, that really stands out to me.
yeah. I think making websites like PowerPoint, um, I love that. Who needs slide transitions? Oh, Mina, I love Mina.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Yeah, I think this is another one of these sort of original OG 11D sites. And yeah, it's just a great website. It's got like a little theme toggler at the top, which is, I love when people put just a little bit extra work into not just dark mode and
Yeah,
light mode, but theming too.
color scheme. Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I
We
think if you make your browser window wide enough, you can see like there's lighthouse scores in the footer too, which
oh
I
yeah, I see it on the
want to see that.
bottom footer here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
yeah, no, that's cool. I also kind of, all like websites back in the day used to add like the HTML validator graphic like on the bottom. Like I just love
Yes.
the like best viewed on this kind of screen. I kind of like how the meta is more universal to the experience, not based on like your hardware, but still like having that meta down there. That's something I want to like add to my site once I add my screensaver to it. Be like, okay, now my site,
Yeah.
my website, jenschiffer.com, like closes during business hours. Like I do weird stuff with
No way.
it.
Really?
Yeah, and like if you want to know what the hours are, you have to install the Jenn Schiffer npm package. I don't know. I just like love I love like goofing with like all the stuff that's available on the web that are like not just like in the browser, but even just like the use of npm dependencies and all of that. Um,
Yeah, that's great.
but yeah.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
Hayden Pickering classically did the you can only browse my website if JavaScript is disabled. Just as a yeah, as a
it's a
nice
radical
little thing.
movement. Yeah. Here's Sanif. I like the
Uh
another. I'm clicking the toggle. Like
yeah, this
beautiful.
is a very
Oh
professional site. Sanif sticks out to me because if you click their second article, February 9th, a website for his 7-year-old kid, you should click through the website. It is incredible. They like made a specific just drawing art website for their 7-year-old.
wow, this is
And
really
instead of
really good.
publishing their art on like Instagram or something like that, where you have all of these other external forces operating on your child's mind, you're now yeah, creating a space where they can publish their stuff and have it seen. And not have to worry about a lot of the other things that come with external social networks.
Yeah, this one is so good.
Yeah, it's
There's
great.
7? My gosh.
Yeah.
This is great. But yeah, no, it's cool. Again, there's kind of this like resurgence, and especially, I mean, the indie web community has been screaming about this forever, rightfully, but
Mm.
like the whole idea of like having your own website and
Yeah.
not like
Owning your
going
content.
to a centralized service in order to like share your kids' drawings, and thinking about like, how do I have something that I can own and pass down to like my child when they're ready. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
The
and
chat's
even you
loving
could
that.
still syndicate that content to these networks, but the way that your child interacts with the content is they're working on their website. They're not going through a social network directly. So, yeah, I really like that.
Oh, I love this. I normally, this doesn't really count as a carousel because it's a slider. Carousels always drove me nuts because I had to build them, and it's hard to make them like look good and work universally. But this is like kind of neat. Oh, you can
Yeah, and it's
unscrew it.
like kind of makes it go up, which always just bends my mind in a weird way. But the hover states for these showcases too, I feel like are incredible.
Oh,
Ryan's
oh
amazing.
yes.
Yeah, I worked with Ryan for a little bit, and he's awesome.
It's also like it's got to be really cool to see how creative the community is. Like all these sites are just really like stunning to look at. It's not so much like, I mean, these sites can all just be about like, I don't know, like chicken recipes, which I don't care about, but they're still cool to like hover and click on and stuff, which is really nice.
Yeah, I do think it's a very special feeling to make something that enables creativity in other people.
The
And I'm
theming
sure you
is really
understand what
cool.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Modern CSS solutions for old CSS problems.
Yeah, you gotta give a shout out to Stephanie Eccles. They have also been prolific in the CSS sphere. So many microsites. I had to pick one. I'm sorry, Stephanie, I picked this one. But you can go out and see Stephanie's stuff. They're just publishing all of these microsites, and you can learn more about CSS.
Shouts out to Stephanie. Yeah, lots of really cool resources. 11T rocks. Dogs of Dev. Oh, hell yeah.
I had to put this one in here. This is Mike's website. Mike, I don't know that I've ever said his name out loud, but Aparicio?
Aparicio.
But yeah, Mike and I go way back. And yeah, he made this website for devs that have dogs. And if you go to page 7, you'll find my dog in the second row.
Chloe.
Sitting
Love
on Baby
that.
Yoda.
Sitting on a baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Oh, I love even the ones that are memorialized. Oh, I know this dog. I know who this belongs to. This is Allie, who made the glitch vlog happen. I don't know if Allie's in the chat, but Allie's on the team.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, Allie's like, oh, my dog is on there.
Amazing.
Aw, shouts out to Evie. If anyone else in the chat, if your dog is on here, let me know and I'll go back to it. Lego, not Legos. An important PSA.
I mean, we love a pedantic website with a vanity domain name. Of course, I had to put this one in here. We don't have to go over it too much, but I did really like the pedanticness of this.
Yeah.
Hasn't been taken down from the internet yet.
Well, Lego's probably like, yes, you're right.
Thank you for doing our work for us.
Here we are in is it Len? How do we pronounce your name?
I could not tell you.
I love that highlight on scroll though. That was very cool.
Oh, they have a sound when you toggle there. Dark mode too.
Oh, let's.
I think the thing that I loved about this site was just the personalized illustrations.
Yeah, I was gonna say the illustrations are really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then they move. Look at the head bopping very subtly. Like,
Oh, what? I didn't notice that at all.
that's
Yeah,
that's
that's
really cool.
incredible.
It's super subtle, which makes it
Yeah.
perfect. And the eyes are moving here. Or yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Oh,
wow, you're
very
right.
cool.
Oh, I love Easter eggs like that where you takes you a minute to notice it.
Yeah. Here's Asher's site. 9 MB.
Yeah.
It's only several floppy disks.
It's not actually 9 MB. I don't know why they say 9 MB. If you look at the dev tools, it's like a 100 KB website. So maybe it includes all of the like build time dependencies and things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's visually stunning. I also appreciated the TLD abbreviation of their last name because I think their last name is Cabrera, and so they just like appended the remainder of their
Yeah.
last name as a directory.
Asher.cab/Vera. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
yeah,
Very
I love that.
cool. Ben Myers.
Ben Myers. Oh, yeah, they are just so prolific in the accessibility space. Ben is great. I think Ben also live streams too, so
Very
you can
cool.
check out Ben's
I'm gonna
stream.
have to come back to this for this build a blog roll with Eleventy because I think I looked into that. I saw this blog post when I was searching for resources. I streamed a few weeks ago making a blog roll in like a fresh Eleventy site on Glitch, and now I want to have like a page on the Glitch blog now that that's live. Pulling in all the submissions from the community because there are a lot of bloggers in the Glitch community, just like there are in the Eleventy world.
Yeah, I love that blog roll idea. Wonder if I might steal that for the 11D world too.
Yeah, because I mean, all the sites that we've been looking at of folks who have blogs, I'm seeing 11T blog posts, so they're very much in line. And yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
change the color of the site. I like the theming here. This is another like PowerPoint website, like a single page, single like window, only window view site. I'm sure there's a better phrase for that. Above the fold. Uh,
Yeah, I think my favorite part about this website is they have a first party footer link for reporting accessibility issues. And I think that is like a sort of a unique thing that
yeah,
more people should do because accessibility issues are software bugs. So why not have a dedicated button for that? I love that.
yeah. Max
And then
book.
I think, yeah, Max is like maybe the original theme person. If you click their like little paint roller thing in the top corner,
Oh,
uh,
heck
they
yeah.
have so many. Uh,
Gamers unite. Rise up.
yeah, Rainbow
Hacker
Road.
News. I was going to say Lobster Life better change the font to Lobster.
It does.
And the cursor's Lobster.
Yes, just
Oh, I'm obsessed with that.
chef's kiss.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
Very neat.
and then yeah, uh, uh, I
Oh,
can't.
let's talk about the conference that you've got coming up. The International
Yes,
Symposium on Making Websites Real Good.
we're very good at branding. Yeah, it's coming up on March 9th. If you're interested, sign up. We have like I think almost 950 folks already signed
May
up.
9th, that is. March 9th has passed.
What did I say?
You
Did I
said
say March?
March. Yeah,
Oh
it's May
no,
9th.
it's May. It's May. Sorry. Yeah, May 9th. And if you want to submit a talk today, you can still do that. Today's the last day to submit a talk to speak. So
946
check it
signups
out.
so far. I'm one of them. You know what I really liked of you get like the ticket graphic is really cool. I think something that was like I don't know, that made me feel special was like so I donate to the 11D project through Open Collective and like that was acknowledged like on the ticket and I was like, "Oh, that's like so slick."
I did
So
that.
yeah, that was
I
very
built that.
cool. So yeah, it's free. Y'all can sign up and you should and yeah. And yeah, you said today's the last day to submit um
Yeah,
apply to
talk
speak.
submissions if you're interested in speaking. So Yeah,
Cool.
it doesn't have to be an 11 topic either. We're going to do just a variety of web development topics.
Nice. Jen Turner posted in the chat the link conf.11t.dev and just click speak. And you can't miss the buttons. They're big and they turn gradient when you hover over it, which I also love.
That is sort of our brand. Is we have had this 11D documentation button on the 11D homepage because folks couldn't find the documentation, so they said the button should be bigger. So I made it as big as humanly possible,
There you
and we're
go.
just rolling with that still.
Um, before I go into more sites, because I want to talk briefly about some of the other options, the more corporate options you had chosen. Tell us about WebC. Like you had mentioned, like you had this problem where you had used basically another dependency for the UI, and then they kind of changed course, and you kind of lost all of that work. And WebC was the advent of it.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted first-party components in 11D, and I thought the best way to do that would be to sort of use the same conventions that exist in the web components space, but it really is just like a server-side processing language for HTML. So at its like core, it's kind of like server-side HTML imports, but using some web components existing specs that already exist. So yeah, it's bringing components to 11D. That's the basic way to say it. And yeah, it's sort of in a stack that we have full control over, and we can fix bugs on without relying on other folks to do that. And we also don't have to worry about churn in other people's tech. Because yeah, I think we got burned by a major dependency upgrade in a different component framework that we were using. So, and yeah, I do kind of believe in web components. I think it's sort of the next, the web platform future of how to build components for the web, and the web components need a server integration, I think, to work properly. I think a lot of the complaints that come in web components and come in the web component space have been because we're holding these full stack frameworks to a client-side only web components tech. And so adding a server-side version of web components to allow that pre-processing to happen really allows us to compete in the same realm. And it makes a lot of those complaints go away. So yeah, trying to stick as close to, again, web standards as possible, because that's the way to get the most longevity out of the code.
So I think like speaking to this and like web performance, I wanted to share with the group here that in 2017, like web performance is not something new that you've picked up on. In 2017, you contributed to my pixel art editor, make8bitart.com, to make some font optimizations. And I remember you telling me like given that it's a site that uses jQuery, you're like, this is actually like really fast. And I was like, oh, that's such huge praise coming from Zach. Like, what got you into web performance, and how has the conversation back then changed to today? Because I accidentally opened up Twitter on the Glitch account over the weekend to see if someone had responded to a question I had. I don't use Twitter personally anymore. And I saw there were some heated discussions about web performance, and I was like, I'm gonna like close this now. And I wanted to know like what your perspective is on like the web performance conversation. Like, what's the good faith debate these days, and what keeps you motivated being involved in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just all comes back to really the love of creating websites and really caring about the craft of building websites. And it almost feels like just like someone that is, I don't want to steal like a metaphor, but someone that is a woodworker their whole life. Like I would, if you work with wood and you build things with wood, you want to be the best woodworker you can be. And I feel the same way about building things for the web. I want to improve all of the different things that I can learn about building things for the web, and that can be overwhelming because there's just unlimited things to improve on. You can always get better at accessibility. You can always get better at web performance. You can always get better at um, sort of reducing dependencies in your tech stack or learning new dependencies that you can add to your tech stack. And tech is always changing too. So it's sort of, you can make a career out of sort of walking this line of trying to be the best that web developer you can be, but also trying to get the most mileage out of your code. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah,
web
no, for
performance is
sure.
a difficult hot topic right now, I think.
Yeah. I think what
We,
my perspective from seeing these conversations over the past several years is that a lot of what drives um how like it's getting people to care about something that's important when
mm,
there's a lot of things to care about. Accessibility falls into this place too. And I think web performance is an accessibility issue. Um,
absolutely.
and not a lot of people think of that philosophically because we kind of in this industry there are waves of celebrating specialists and then goes into like generalists, and when you're a generalist it's hard to care about something so specifically, and I feel like over time you see the industry hiring more generalists and then getting into like specialists. It's a capitalism thing, of course, because
Mm.
specialists are an extra like cost and you have to kind of balance like what matters. Where where are we at now, do you think? Are we more getting into like a specialist focus on web performance? Do you think the generalists are getting a better understanding of it because the tools are getting better?
I mean, I think these jobs will always exist at different sizes of company. So a lot of times you'll get more specialists at bigger companies because they can afford to invest in those individual facets of web development, and get specialists that work in those fields. But the smaller the company, the more generalist you need to be. So there you can't you don't have a web performance person. You don't have uh, uh, yeah, you don't have these specialists that exist in the field at a small, tiny company. So you kind of have to be a generalist, because they don't have the same budget. But I think that the real disconnect that exists now is that all of the popular approaches and technical architecture that is being sort of espoused as best practices right now is controlled by giant companies and giant projects. And so they're sort of enforcing this complexity of scale on all of these teams that don't have the general or don't have the specific knowledge and the specialists on their team to adapt these tools and adapt the complexity to their needs. So we're seeing a real like general slowdown or general like decrease in the quality of things that exist on the web, because there's sort of a tension of incentives that exist right now. Um, and yeah, I don't think we're in a great place, to be honest, just looking at the wider perspective. But I think when you look at web performance general statistics, the web has always sort of been the average website is always going to grow. It will probably never hit a point where it's going to shrink. Um, so it is sort of the other aspect of it is a hardware software race. Um, but that is always going to capitalistically outprice people that exist at the lower, like in the lower tiers of devices. Like if you can't afford a new iPhone every year, then your phone might be like this sort of much cheaper Android that can't afford to run these like giant tech stacks of complexity that everyone's using. So I don't know. That was a real long babble, but
No, no, but again, it speaks to the web performance being an accessibility like issue, and also therefore a sustainability issue. People shouldn't be buying iPhones every year.
mhm,
Um, People should start getting into. I personally think buying like used phones when your phone breaks because there's enough of that stuff that's like out and about, and that's something I think a lot about. Like a lot of glitch users are students who use laptops that they borrow from school and their
mhm,
Chromebooks, and glitch works for them because they don't have to install anything. There's that portability.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but also like Chromebooks are not growing at the speed of power that they are of cost. And so, it used to kind of be the trope that like when we were finally trying to wait for like Internet Explorer 6 to go away, it was like, oh, it's like healthcare sites and government sites. And it's like, nope, that's
Mm,
not like that's more of a caricature. Like, it is the case now. Like, the sites are very old. And the software is very old, and we learned that during COVID and quarantine, where all of our like government infrastructure was crumbling under the weight
mm.
of having to provide services to us. Um, but it's also the case for um, a larger part of the web that's being used in like education and other spaces. And so it's like kind of like when I see these like debates about web performance and like what's important, I kind of like the like lively conversation of like what we should be doing and really pushing people to be doing stuff. But that has to kind of come with like some help in what the solutions are and what tools are like available. Um,
Yeah, and
and
carrots there's always this thing between carrots and sticks too, because I feel like a lot of web performance a lot of those discussions were just ignored for a very long time until uh, Google started introducing Lighthouse and the suggestion of web performance influencing your page rank, and there's a larger discussion about the dilution of quality of search results generally that I feel like is just another sort of pushback against web performance initiatives, which is hard. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the SEO as a driver like worked until, all that stuff gets gamed in
Mm.
some sort of way. Well, we're a little bit over time, but I have a few minutes. I wanted to talk a bit about the work that you're doing at Cloud Cannon, which I just want to acknowledge you stream on the Cloud Cannon Twitch. So that's
Hey, yeah.
twitch.tv/Cloud Cannon CMS. What is Cloud Cannon? I know you're working 20% time, which I believe someone had said is 14,400,000 milliseconds on 11T. What else is
That
going on
won't make
there?
me worry about every millisecond that I spend. Yeah, Cloud Cannon is a Git-based CMS. So we sort of talked about CMSs earlier and how export processes can be unwieldy. And with Cloud Cannon, it's kind of great because it allows non-technical editors to come in and edit your site, but it also gives you the same sort of local development workflow. You can still use your 11 build locally, but also there's no export because everything just feeds back into your Git repository. If you want to stop using Cloud Cannon at any point, your data is already in your repo. There's no work to do,
No
which
converting
I
weird
think,
blocks to
yeah,
markdown and
which I think is great. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Cloud Cannon, just independent of their support of Eleventy, and yeah, I think the Eleventy conference would not have existed without their support either. So shout out to
yeah.
them.
Well, the product aside, it's always just really important. I feel like to shout out companies that are supporting open source work in this way, which I know is very difficult to do in 2024. I know you were working on it full time in like your previous job. I know a bunch of people who were working their previous jobs full time at open source and lost that opportunity, and I think it's really huge of Cannon to be that like kind of forward thinking. Like, I think businesses are so short term thinking, which like makes sense, shareholders and all that important stuff. But thinking long term versus just short term as far as sustainability goes is really important. So
Yeah, and I'm
yeah.
completely on board with their long-term vision too. That we have some great stuff coming.
Someone in the chat, FameBot, said they're all really nice too. This might be a coworker of yours or just a huge fan of Cloud Cannon. But they
That's
said
Ricky.
PageFind is super cool too. Yeah, we were talking about like fast search, like the blog search,
Mm.
for the glitch blog search, I believe uses PageFind, and it's
Hey.
super fast. And that was actually the first thing when I my blog, I'll pitch it. Live Laugh blog is an 11T site. I've got a dark mode. Look at that.
Hey, now we're
um,
talking.
my favorite thing when I started this was like, okay, what can I add to it that doesn't like come out of the box with a site generator? Because like you don't need to make a blog with 11T. Make any site. But like looking at the dependencies for like adding an RSS feed, which I did, and adding like a fast search. Let me spell candles right. I make a lot of candles. Like, you can't have that with like a single page app unless you have like some other integration with like Algolia, I think was one I saw another site using. Um, so yeah, I love that aspect of it. So shouts out to Page Find mentioned in the
Yeah,
chat.
and that's a completely static build too. There's no like runtime services that you have to, there's no servers you have to do. That's
Yeah.
all just statically generated log indexes. And yeah, PageFind is amazing.
The
I've used
example
it on
I
like a
oh
50,000 page build too, and it holds
oh
up.
wow.
It's very fast.
That's great. And I think like my gold star example of like fast search, weirdly enough, is the PHP docs site. And that was like super fast like a while ago. And so for me to be able to have search that feels like the PHP docs site, it sounds so weird when I say it out loud, but it's true. And I've mentioned it before at work many times. But
Shout out to
having
PHP.
having that speed and capability for an individual developer making their own site for free, and that tool not just being something that the enterprise has access to, is like really important. It's also kind of the part of the vision of Glitch joining Fastly, is like enabling like all developers to have like the speed and security that the enterprise has. And that's not just me doing like a Fastly commercial. It just comes to mind because it's something that we talk about all the time. It's like, how do we make these tools that make things fast and secure, like table stakes for the web, available to all the individuals that like we have shown the Eleventy sites of, who these are like their personal pages. Sites like the Accessibility Project, which I have here, which I've often gone to for resources and has always looked gorgeous. And again, web performance is an accessibility issue, so this like makes a lot of sense. What can you tell me about this site that you like?
That's built with Eleventy. It's like, yeah, it's just an incredible resource. I feel like there's so many good accessibility blog posts on there, and you can learn a lot. And I have learned a lot, and I've used a lot of these things in my work. So I think this project specifically also just has a great community around it too. There's a lot of folks contributing to the project. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this site.
And here's Nord Health. So this goes more into not like a personal site, but more of a corporate org, which that's got to be really kind of validating to see like professional services are using it.
Yeah, I mean, North Health is the sort of, I don't know, the best design system that I can think of. If you go down to the bottom, there's a design system link in their footer, and that is built with Eleventy. And it is the one that I show to everyone whenever possible, because it is just incredible. It's on the right.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
Very neat. CERN, heard of it?
Yeah, this is maybe one of the coolest ones that you just sort of see it published and you just take a moment to like consider the cool ramifications of this. It's like I feel like my life was validated in that moment of seeing something
Yeah.
that was a CERN property that was built with Eleventy. Yeah, but yeah, there's like a small team that sort of tried to reproduce the one of the first original web browsers, or the original web browser.
Yeah.
And that site wasn't built with Eleventy, but this sort of like metadata site around it was built with Eleventy.
Yeah.
So amazing.
That's cool. I remember when like oh, I like this graphic. I remember when it was announced that some project with a node dependency ended up in the software for powering like NASA's spacesuits, and everyone was like, nodes going to space. And it like always sounds kind of like cringy and like corny, but when you think about it, it's just like I think the reason why we do the work that we do is we want to see people do cool stuff with it, right? And like, I mean, billionaires aside, like space is really cool. And seeing like something that you're using to help show the history of like the web, which I would argue is cooler than space, but that's because the billionaires made space seem cringy. But yeah, that's really cool to see. So yeah. And then the last link that you got shared with me is lit web components. I made a lit starter on Glitch like 5 years ago. I have to revisit it, but
Yeah, their website is built with Eleventy,
oh,
which
awesome.
is awesome. Yeah. But
Very
yeah, more in the
cool.
web components space. They're like maybe the front runner in the web components tooling space, but yeah, huge fan of them.
Yeah. And it just validates the there's been like discussions about like web components for like ever, and the like what is it, and how do I like get started. And again, it's
Mm,
kind of also similar to the conversation on WebAssembly 5 years ago, where it was like, oh, this is a thing, this is cool. We're finally getting to a point where like we're seeing more people talk about it and thinking how can they use it versus just the standards conversations, which is also a lot of work that's going on at like Fastly and everyone else contributing to it. So it's almost like, even though things feel broadly bad on the web now because of the fragmentation of like our social communities,
yeah.
the from a technology standpoint, I'm starting to like see like, oh, all the investment in like education for this stuff 5 years ago is finally like kind of coming to a head, which is like nice. It's kind of like a glimmer of hope among like the despair of people worrying about AI taking over everything and all that kind of stuff. Um, what are you most excited about? This will be my last question for you. What are you most excited about for the next like 5 years of the web?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I mean, I think just reducing complexity will be a huge win for everyone. And I think it is coming. You can see a lot of the work being done to standardize even JavaScript modules 10 years ago is starting to appear in these actual like developer experience cases. It's starting to trickle finally into all of the node dependencies in the node ecosystem that exists. And we're even getting like some awesome cross compatibility work happening in the node space between CommonJS and ESM now. I saw that you'll be able to require an ESM package in a future version of Node, which I think is a huge deal for compatibility. And so, yeah, I think anything we can do to reduce complexity is going to be great because it'll allow us to build better things and more things. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. Just getting rid of as much of that complexity as possible.
Yeah, no, honestly, same. And thank you. I mean, we can talk for hours more about this stuff, and I'll probably try to have you on another time in the future, because this
Yeah,
is like
anytime.
sparking a lot more conversation, a lot more questions in my head about performance and developer experience around that. Thank you so much for joining me, our first guest on Glitch Jams Live.
Guess
So
number one.
yeah, and my
Have me
neighbors
back for
seem
guess number
to,
11.
yeah, I was gonna say our neighbors seem to give me a break from their construction for the show. Maybe they're watching. Uh, again, thank you so much for joining. For all the rest of you in the chat, thanks for joining and doing milliseconds math for me, and sharing all the links. Next week we're not gonna have the stream because again the team is out and no one's here to watch after me, and so I'll come up with another date to continue the screensaver jam. Go to glitch.com/jams to learn more about the community code jams. Go to 11t, which is what 11 should be, .dev, to see more about Zach's work. There's links in the description. And I hope everyone has a really nice weekend, including you, Zach. I will,
Oh, thank you. My
yeah.
weekend started yesterday.
That's right, 4-day work week. I feel like it's not ambitious enough anymore. We gotta fight for the 3-day work week now.
Hey, here we go.
Okay, I'll see y'all on glitch.com. Bye.